Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. Today I'm going to talk about Banned Book Week. Now, at the time this will go out, since I do these Old Man Rambles on Fridays, Banned Book Week will already be over. But Banned Book Week runs from this year from October 5th to October 11th. Banned Book Week has its history from back in the 1970s, where a group of librarians and teachers basically got together to try and fight people's attempts to get books pulled off shelves. Calling it Banned Book Week is a bit of a misnomer because none of the books on the list have actually been banned. Being banned requires a law to be passed. So this is more challenged books. Books that are having their presence on shelves challenged. And in some cases that challenge is successful, unfortunately. Now, this group, the Banned Book Week, the people that run this thing, started keeping track and trying to promote, anti-censorship, because it is a form of censorship. The people who criticize this institution basically say none of these books are banned, but people are trying to remove these books from shelves, in schools, in public libraries, and in bookstores. They are trying to force their idea of what is allowed to be read on the people around them. It may not be censorship in the form of that the law is not necessarily involved, although in some cases these people do get lawyers involved to try and sue these schools, libraries, and bookstores into getting those books pulled off the shelf. And the books are banned for various reasons. My teacher introduced this to me back when I was in high school, my junior high history teacher, my U.S. history teacher back in high school. I think his name was Mr. Benson. I'm not sure that's correct. But regardless, he had a huge impact on me. I think he was an excellent teacher. I was just a very poor student and I hated U.S. history. But I remember many of the things he tried to teach us that were not in the standard textbook. And that's why he made a huge impact on me, because he stepped outside the norms. And one of the things that he taught us is that, when Banned Book Week occurred, he basically spent an entire day talking about it. He brought up the list. He passed out a photocopied list of the top 100 challenged books that people try to remove from the shelves. And the reasonings behind them were ludicrous. The Tarzan books by Edgar Rice Burroughs were challenged. They were tried to be banned. The reasoning behind that is that Tarzan and Jane were never married. They had a son, which they called Boy. And the fact that they had a child out of wedlock angered a lot of people, or at least enough of them to make the list. They were in the top 100 lists, top 100 books banned that year. Winnie the Pooh, all the Disney stuff, because of course, animals don't have souls. So anthropomorphizing anything that anthropomorphized animals, any Disney cartoons, Looney Tunes cartoons, Winnie the Pooh, children's stories that anthropomorphized animals was considered anti-Christian. And there were other lists and other reasons, but those are some of the primary reasons. And I did look up the top 100 challenged books of 2024, 2025. Most of the books that are challenged are done by conservatives over religious reasons, and others. Any book that depicts sex. Most of the challenged books in the last several years, anything by a queer author, anything that depicts a queer relationship, those are challenged. Those are attempted to be pulled from the shelves. And I would like to point out that none of these books are being pulled from elementary school libraries or elementary schools, or even maybe middle schools, I'm not sure. But a majority of them are from public libraries and high schools, where kids would be mature enough to read these books. Other books that have been challenged for the last 40 some odd years or so since I graduated: Catcher in the Rye, what was that other? Kill a Mockingbird. books that are considered classics of literature. Um, and I think books like To Kill a Mockingbird are challenged on sexual content because a young girl is assaulted. But it's like, this is a classic of literature. Most people have to read this, have had to read that book for high school English classes or English lit classes. So it's like they're um, one of the things I found interesting that I know this year, but I'm not sure how historically, but the Bible has also been challenged. Although I think that's been done as retaliation over all the other books that have been challenged for their sexual content. The Bible's got a lot of sexual assault, a lot of violence, a lot of sex out of wedlock. There's a lot of things that happen in the Bible that people are challenging other books for. So I think the Bible being on there has been done as a retaliation against similar content in anything LGBTQ or queer. And unfortunately, modern technology has made this a lot easier for the people who want to get books banned. I think it was Texas. In Texas, 80% of all the requests to have books banned or pulled off shelves was done by 2 people, because these people utilize technology to basically mass email every school, every library, and every bookstore in the entire state with a list of books they just cut and pasted and flooded out. And yeah, they are getting the law involved. They're getting their lawyers involved, and they are pressuring these places. They're organized. They're sending people to town halls. And the funny thing is, none of these people are being original about it. They're using the same cut and pasted list, the same cut and pasted passages when they go to these town hall meetings. This one woman, I watched a video. This one woman showed up at a town hall meeting with a list of 800 books that she claims to have read. Now, I'm an avid reader. I know I'm in my late 50s, and I have personally read over 1,000 books in my lifetime. But it took me, a lifetime to read that many books. I could have read more. But if you read a book a day, every day, from start to finish, it would take you 2 years to read 800 books, give or take. To say that this woman read every single one of these books, she would have to have done nothing else but read these books for 2 years. And I sincerely doubt it. These people are a lot of these bad faith actors. And it doesn't infuriate me, because they are, what's the phrase that I heard? It's trying to ban steak because a baby can't chew it. Kind of, I think that was a quote. I'm bastardizing that quote from Mark Twain, but Mark Twain said something like that. It's like, you're trying to take this book away from other people because you personally don't like it. That's what's going on. These people don't like these books, and they're trying to make sure no one can read them. And it is infuriating for me. I come back to this every year. I check this thing out every year. I make sure to know every year when Banned Book Week is. I don't necessarily do a whole lot about it, but this year I figured I'm trying to do this stuff on a regular basis, put out a regular, scheduled YouTube videos every week. Might as well speak about something that I'm passionate about, even though I don't have a script, and I will probably keep this fairly short. I do highly recommend that you look into this. Look at the website, look at the books that are challenged. They have on the website lists by decades of the top 100 challenged books for each decade. The ones I found were like the 1990, 1999, 2000, 2009, 2010, 2019. They'll also have the top 100 for 2024. 2025 isn't over yet, but they still have some lists for 2025 challenged books. And I just think this is really important, and people need to take this seriously, because so many people out there are trying to control what you have access to control how you think. And I did mention that most of the books challenged are from conservatives, but that means 20% are from the liberal left as well. I do not support any attempts to pull books away from anyone. You know, as a parent, I have this large collection of books. I have a couple of books that I would have been hesitant for my children to read if they were under the age of 12 or 14, 12 to 14, somewhere in there. But once they were in high school, you know, yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of books that have anything graphic in them in terms of sexual content, one or two, but that's not, even then it's pretty minor. It's not, I don't read romance novels. So most of the sexual content in most of my books is, very short and sweet. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's not the main thrust of the book, if you'll pardon the pun. But I really, really, really strongly support what the people at Banned Book Week are trying to do. As much as I despise the attempts of the people trying to get these books pulled off shelves, I support Banned Book Week and what the people who are behind it are trying to do. So, having said that, please check out Banned Book Week. Support them whenever you can. Get the word out whenever you can. And until next time, good hunting.